Hello, everyone. I am Jessica with Black Travelers Network, where we provide trips that focus on the Black experience in different parts of the world, and we cover news stories that impact different parts of the African diaspora. Before we get into today's story, take a minute to subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell so you will be notified when a new video is released. And I'm really excited to talk about this story because this is a story, for those of you who are not in the United States, this is a story that has been sort of dominating the news headlines for the last week here in the States. And it's this whole college cheating scandal that has touched some of the elite universities such as Yale and Stanford and USC, which is the University of Southern California, and a number of other elite schools. This story is important because there are a number of lessons that can be learned from what's playing out before our eyes in terms of all of these different players who were involved in helping to get these undeserving wealthy children into some of the most elite schools. There are several lessons from it, but one of the key lessons that I want to focus on is the network behind the operation. And I'm going to point to an article by the New York Times. It came out March 12th. And I want to kind of break this down because people are getting distracted by the emotions that they have behind this whole story. I'm hearing a lot of comments and commentary about all the rich and the wealthy, and they have all these kids who are who feel entitled, and there's just a bunch of distractions. And I'd ask that you don't get distracted by it. This is a real lesson in how networks operate and function in this country, and not only today, but I would argue, and most people who've gone to any university knows, that there is a system that looks very much like this that already is in place where rich people's kids are not held to the same standards. And yes, they pay for their children to go to some of these schools. And most people think the payment is through the tuition and the room and boarding cost or whatever the university's costs are. But this story highlights how there are costs before you even get to what they have to pay to tuition if you want your child or children to go to a certain school. And so the New York Times featured an article, "Who's Been Charged in the College Admissions Cheating Scandal?" Here's the full list. And so I'm going to go through this article, and what it says is, in what the Justice Department called its largest ever college admissions prosecution, federal authorities charged 50 people on Tuesday with taking part in a nationwide scheme to game the admissions process at highly competitive schools like Yale and the University of Southern California. Those charged include wealthy and powerful parents accused of paying millions of dollars in bribes, exam administrators and athletic coaches accused of manufacturing students' achievements, and private admissions counselors accused of coordinating it all. So here's where the article starts to break down the different layers of the network. And so the first layer of the network is the enterprise. And it says, at the center of the scandal are the Edge College and Career Network, also known as The Key, and a nonprofit organization, the Key Worldwide Foundation, that prosecutors say effectively were a single enterprise. They are accused of helping students cheat on standardized tests and paying bribes to athletic coaches who could get the students into college using fake athletic credentials. So when it comes to the actual enterprise and this particular college and career network, William Singer, also known as Rick Singer, is the owner of Edge College and Career Network. And he's the chief executive of Key Worldwide Foundation. The article also goes on to list Stephen Macera, an accountant and financial officer for both of the entities, and Michaela Sanford, an employee who held several roles and is accused of taking classes for high school students. So even in crime, automatically, this whole operation was from the gate created from a business perspective, with William Singer being at the top, sort of the CEO, the main point person, making the decisions, and only a couple of other people that have been identified in these initial charges as people who were business oriented people who worked for him. And so even in crime, it's still a business. The next layer of players that is outlined in the article are the parents. And it says, federal prosecutors accused dozens of parents of paying millions of dollars in bribes to help their children secure spots at prestigious universities. And it goes on to list a number of the parents, like each individual parent that has been identified in this particular case. Not only does the article list who these people are, but it also lists what these folks do. And what I love about the way the article is presented is that each of these parents, the kind of work that they do is clearly identified. And so you have people who are senior executives of a resort and casino. You have a doctor, and someone's parent is the chief executive of a boutique marketing company, and some folks are in warehousing and distribution. So it's a wide variety of different types of backgrounds that these folks come from, and these folks have millions of dollars that they can throw and spend to get their children in these elite schools. And so for those of you who have time to check out that article, really take a step back and see, what are these people doing in an effort to generate money? Because on the one hand, the parents, they are sort of the customers that this particular enterprise has. I mean, it's not a long list, but then again, it doesn't have to be a long list, because he's dealing with people who have money to spend. And I think they said something like over a 5-year period, he collected $25 million. And so it's worth looking, because through the work that we do with Black Travelers Network, I meet so many different people, some who are, most who are in corporate America, but there are some people who I meet who are entrepreneurs, or what I call wantrepreneurs, people who want to know what kind of business they should open. And it's just very, very interesting when you take a look at this particular collection of parents, the type of businesses that they either lead or are the head of, or that they sort of probably created as their own entrepreneurial endeavor. So very interesting. Definitely take a look at it. The third layer of players that the article goes into are the coaches, because remember, there were one of two pathways to get these students into these universities. Either they could get in the university from posing as if they were an athlete that was being recruited, or their parents could pay someone to take their test or doctor uh, their test answers. So, but it identifies the athletic coaches, and it says athletic coaches from top schools were also implicated and accused of accepting millions of dollars to help students gain admission. And so there are coaches from the University of Texas at Austin, Georgetown, Wake Forest, USC, which is the University of Southern California for those of you who aren't in the States, Yale University, University of California, Los Angeles, Stanford. I mean, like the elite schools. So he had coaches that were strategically parked in these schools, these elite schools. And so I think the article lists about 10 different coaches in these schools. And so my understanding is that there's still an ongoing investigation, so we'll see if there are other coaches who are implicated in this particular case. But right now he had his bases covered with the coaches. And the final layer that the article identifies is sort of like a miscellaneous category, where it says these are the other players. The teachers, test administrators, and private instructors are named as co-conspirators in the federal charging document. And so, I mean, it's a list of 4 other people who have been implicated. One is a test administrator for the College Board and the ACT, who's accused of accepting bribes to facilitate the cheating scheme at the West Hollywood Test Center. His name is Igor Vorsky or something like that. There's an assistant teacher at a public high school in Houston, Texas, and a test administrator, another test administrator for the College Board and ACT. And there's a test proctor accused of tampering with students' test papers to improve their scores and secretly taking exams in the place of students. And there is another person who is a president of a private tennis academy and a camp in Houston, Texas, accused of acting as a middleman for bribe payments. And so I am fascinated by this story because what this identifies is a clear network of individuals who, none of these people may even know each other. They don't all necessarily know each other. They may only know one person or a few people who are connected to this scheme. But they all are on the same page. They all understand what the goal is. There's a monetary exchange that takes place, and there's a system, a clear-cut system, of which they call a network, that will take these parents from paying the money that they have to pay in order to get their child into the elite school. And that's just really fascinating to me, because obviously this is illegal, but imagine if there were things in your life that you wanted to either do or something you wanted to be a part of. Can you imagine the power you would have if you're able to identify a goal, what you want to get at the end of the day, and you sort of like create this structure or system of people that you may or may not know along the way, to take you from what you want to do all the way to the end result. And I just think it's fascinating, because this is obviously a system that has been in place more than likely as long as there's been higher learning institution here in the United States. I don't believe this is the first time this has been done. I don't believe this has not happened on some level at every college, at every university. I've seen this elements of this whole system happening on a high school level in the public school system. And so, as I said, I don't know if I said it at the beginning, I'm really, really surprised that they decided to arrest these people and prosecute them, because I think that this system is actually representative of the American way. And to take it even further than the school systems, I would say this is another example of how things can operate and work on some of your jobs. When you're out here working hard, putting in overtime, doing extra work, coming up with all the creative ideas, leading teams, doing things that are really changing the game in corporate America or in whatever jobs you do, and then you're not promoted, or the money you make isn't reflected in terms of the efforts and the work that you do. But meanwhile, someone comes in the door who supposedly nobody knows, who's supposedly a new person, and not only are they promoted over you, but you're reporting to them, and they come in the door making more money than you. And one thing I can tell you from having worked in a more corporate environment is that a lot of times in these workplaces, there will be people who are a part of each other's families and you won't even know it. They will pretend like they don't even know each other. There can be brothers and sisters, they can be husband and wife, they'll have different last names, and they'll be working alongside you, and you will have no idea the connections that these people have. All you know is that they somehow outperformed you supposedly, or somehow was advanced, and you can't put your finger on how or why it happened, but all you know is that you've been working hard and doing the best that you could do to shine in your work environment. So this happens every day throughout all aspects of our society, and I would just say that take a closer look at this system, learn from it. There's a lesson to it, and figure out how you can create your own system. Of course, we want it to be legal. We do not advocate any illegal behavior, but it's so easy to get what it is that you want in a manner that's legal that it just baffles me why these folks decided to go the illegal route. And that's kind of, I hate to say it, that's kind of how this country has been built upon, things that have happened illegally over time that have become accepted as normal and as a way of life, and that people kind of know about but don't really speak about. So just follow this story. Fascinating stuff. I feel like every day I learn something new about it. But the point is that networks are important, they're essential, they're powerful, and it's all about making sure that whatever your goals are, that you have a clear pathway to accomplish what that goal is. And I think there are things you can glean from this article that can really benefit you as you think about the next steps and how to sort of position yourself to get the things that you want. The answers always and usually lie in the network. Thank you so much, you guys, for listening. I'm Jessica with Black Travelers Network. Please stay tuned for our upcoming trips. We do have an upcoming trip that's coming in September, where we are going to Dubai, and we also have a trip that's coming where we're going back to Brazil. And so if you want any details about any of our upcoming trips, don't hesitate to send us an email at blacktravelersnetwork@gmail.com and request details. All right, guys, thank you for listening. Take care.